Defining your own functions is a fundamental part of C++ programming. It's also the basis of methods in classes, so let's take a look at how to define a function in C++. Here I have a working copy of func.cpp from Chapter 2 of the exercise files. And you'll notice here, starting on line 5, we have a simple function called func. A function is declared with a return type first, and in this case we have the return type is void, which means that the function does not return a value. That's followed by the function name, func, func, which is followed by parentheses, and the parentheses may have parameters declared within it as in the main function below. The body of the function is a block of code in curly braces. In this case, the body just has one line, which is a put statement that says this is func. And that's really all there is to it, how you define a simple function. And so this is a very, very simple function. It's just one line of code. And if I run this here, you see that the main function is the main entry point, and it says this is main, and then it calls func. And you notice func is called by using the name of the function and a pair of parentheses. So the parentheses is called the function call operator. And the parentheses may sometimes have parameters inside of it. We'll show that a little later in the chapter. This is just meant to be a very, very simple explanation of how a function works. So you notice that main is also a function. Main is never called directly. It's the main entry point for the code. It's called by the system. Our function, called func, is called on line 13 with the function call operator, those parentheses. Now, a function must be declared before it's called. So if I were to move this function definition and put it after main, and then try to build and run, you notice that build fails, and it says use of undeclared identifier func. Because really in C++, everything must be declared before it's used, and in this case, we haven't declared the function. So there's a couple of ways that this can happen, because this is actually a really, really common situation where you're going to want to have your function definitions separate from the code that calls them. And so one way to do this is to simply declare it above main. So here on line 5, I just say void func, and the function call operator, which says that this is a function definition, and a semicolon. And that's called a forward declaration. And that declares that here we have a function. This is not the code for it. The code is someplace else. But know that there is a function called this. And that gives the system, especially the code linker, the information that it needs in order to build the target program. And so now when I press build and run, you notice that everything works just fine. This is not the common way to do this, however. The common way to do this is with a header file. So you notice here in the Chapter 2 exercise files, there's a file called func.h, which simply has that function forward declaration in it. And so if I drag this into my project and make sure I have copy set there, and now I come back in here, and instead of this, I say #include func.h, and we'll cover these includes in the next chapter on the preprocessor. And now when I build and run, you see that it still works because that includes the forward declaration that's in func.h, and now that's part of this code here because the include preprocessor directive includes the entire file of this .h file. And so now everything works as we expect. So this is the more common way to include the function definitions for code that's in a C++ file. So that's how you define and declare a function. We'll get into many more details throughout the rest of this chapter.